right, Darian, thank you very much. So we are back with Chef Jen. Now she's making her basil pesto, stuffed mushrooms, but also we're making tomato bruschetta, right?
Yes, absolutely. This is another great way to get some vegetables in, and of course, maybe have a little bit of bread, something that we typically think we need to shy away from. And so what I have is some Roma tomatoes. I have some already diced, fresh basil. And again, the whole idea is how many times do we buy fresh herbs? We use them one time and we don't have a plan for them.
Right.
So this is kind of the best thing is we can have two very different appetizers and we're just kind of cross-utilizing our ingredients. And I think that makes it more efficient for most people. But the biggest issue is most of us, especially when we're trying to meal plan, is we don't think of how to cross-utilize the ingredients we already have. And I think when we're on, kind of this weight loss journey or whatever it is, we need to kind of put that into account, right? So I've got some Roma tomatoes, I have some fresh basil, a little bit of salt, and I'm going to do, of course, my fresh garlic, and I do cheat. I get the stuff already peeled.
That's a good way to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you mentioned, cross-utilizing stuff. Say, and I personally run into this problem all the time.
Yeah.
Say I got something in my pantry that I used for one meal, and all of a sudden I don't know what to do. What is the best way to kind of go about, maybe utilizing it in another way?
I guess it depends on what it is,
Right.
honestly. I always think of things like rice. I could have cilantro lime rice one night, and then I could have the same plain rice and put it in my stir fry, right? Or I could have plain rice and throw it into a soup. Or I could make a rice pilaf, or I could make a risotto. Like, you could have yourself set up to the point where you literally make rice for the month, you pull it out of the freezer, it's individually portioned, and it just makes your life easier. So you can just kind of pull and dump and assemble, right? So yeah, it really depends on what you're making.
No, that makes perfect sense. So while you're chopping up the garlic there,
Yeah.
talk about the mushrooms. What are you currently baking them at and for how long?
Yeah, so I have these in my little convection oven here. This is at 425, so this will take about 15 minutes, so it won't be too long. These little ovens are pretty nice to have. And then we'll just put them out and let them slightly cool before we indulge.
Right.
So then we've got a little bit of bread here as well, and you can just put like a little bit of olive oil on these. Just kind of shake it. You don't need a whole lot, of course, because we're also going to put just a smidge in our tomatoes. And then I've got these tiny little bocconcini balls of mozzarella. And what's awesome about this too is we can have the leftover and we can make little margarita pizzas if we'd like.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Margarita pizza. That's always a good one. So the diet does talk about high-value, low-density foods. Would these be considered some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a volume of tomatoes, we have a little bit of cheese, right? And so we're having all of these things where it's not like we've said no, we haven't taken anything away. And so it's really about kind of like the ratio.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
absolutely. So a lot of vegetables. So
Well, that's always good.
yeah.
So now we're throwing you put some olive oil on the bread, and you're gonna put that in. How long would you put that in
That's
for?
going to be about like a minute or two. It doesn't take very long, but I am going to pull out our mushrooms. They look beautiful.
Yes, they certainly do.
Nice
Look at
and
those.
golden. So I'll put them on our little plate here. I always like to make sure that I don't bake them where they're like completely weepy, and I like them to have a little bit of a bite to them yet.
Right.
Oh, it smells so good.
Yes, it does. They look incredible too. The golden brown on top is, excuse my pun here, but the chef's kiss, right on top there. So.
That's right. Absolutely. So then what we can do next is just pull out our little toasted bread. And typically bruschetta is like a little bit more of like charred, but I like to just be lightly toasted. It doesn't need to be super, super charred.
Right.
I've got it on that bottom little broiler there.
Just something for a little crunch.
Yeah,
maybe.
just a little bit toasted up, and I usually pick a pretty rustic bread, and then we can just put our little bruschetta right on top. And then you're all set.
Yeah, and then after that you're just putting it right on top. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's very simple meal. So it's definitely a great meal, and thank you very much for coming on to teach us all this again. It's always great to learn from you. And we do have to get to a commercial break. We do have so much more to show you on today's Midwest Access, including a look at what's trending. ET is back in the spotlight. We'll show you what that's all about after the break.